Hi everybody. It feels actually really good to see people in real life because normally in the NFT space this is how you see people. And today, in real life, I want to talk to you about money. And why am I going to talk to you about money? I'm kind of an expert because I'm a bank director. In 2010, as an artist, I started my own bank, the Exchanghibition Bank. Seemed a pretty good idea back then because governments had no money for the arts, but they had billions to bail out banks. But what was actually the real reason, or one of the main reasons I started the bank? Because I got kind of frustrated that I only read about art in the news when a Picasso, a Warhol, a Basquiat, they would sell for over $100 million or more. So I started the bank, banker suit, painter overall, slowly fading into a pinstripe suit, to explore values, to see like, yes, these pieces of art sell for a lot of money, but is that really the value of art? Doesn't art have so many other values? But in our society, it seems that we view value almost synonymous as financial value. And history repeats itself, because I think most people heard for the first time about NFTs because Beeple sold for almost 70 million. And then there are pictures like this selling for hundreds of thousands because it's an NFT by Gary Vee. But does that mean it's art? I recently have been reading the Keith Haring journals, really inspirational, and he wrote this: money is the opposite of magic. Art is magic. The worlds of art and money are constantly intermingling. To survive this mixture, the magic in art has to be applied in many ways. Magic must always triumph. For me, art is the language of the soul. And I think, and for me, it's so important in this age where the language seems to be all about numbers, data, algorithms, everything seems to, it has to fit in an Excel sheet. But yes, in a world where most people don't view art as magic, but money as magic, it is really important as an artist just to be able to make a living. And as such, I'm really enthusiastic about NFTs because there's this new way for artists to empower themselves to make a living. But at the same time, for me, there's also, and I think we have to be aware of that, the danger that money might overpower art. That it's all about a drop culture, and that when you as an artist create work and you don't instantly sell, that you start panicking. And I think now at the moment with crypto crashing, being in a bear market, it's a very important time to look at the relationship between art and money. Facebook would state it as a complicated relationship. So it's all about drop culture, but I think there are actually three different things which can happen when you drop your art into the real world. One is, yes, you can be really fortunate as an artist, and it will become immediately a hype, it will sell for a lot of money. Happened actually to me when I started out as an artist. I was a young kid, 21, 22 years old. I started making flyers, record covers for the then just starting dance scene, all underground parties, lots of energy, and within no time, and this is difficult to imagine now, but at the beginning of the 90s, there was even hardly any internet. And I made 3 flyers, 2 record covers, and it went viral. Before I knew it, I got flown to Tokyo, New York, Miami, Istanbul. That was really great. Even like 2 years later, this German magazine wrote, there's a new underground movement, and a 24-year-old is the new prophet. So it went only downhill from there. But when I look back at the work I did then, beginning of the 90s, to be honest, I don't think it was that good. And that's what often happens with a hype. The moment it gets into the world, people go like, wow, and it becomes a hype, there's lots of movement, and then years later, often we see it maybe the quality wasn't that good. But that's okay, because that means that the moment the hype happens, it might be a flash in the pan, but there's lots of movement, people get inspired, and yes, years later, maybe it was not that good, but that's still cool that all the movement started. But there's another possibility. That as an artist, sometimes you're ahead of the time or your own time. Like in 2009, I had an exhibition, The Last Train to the Inevitable Beyond. My least successful exhibition ever. I think only 1 painting sold. And then 10 years later, suddenly all these paintings started selling. I had an exhibition in Barcelona, in London, and also for me as an artist, they were really important for my development. So sometimes with art, the quality or the real value, you only see that after a lot of years. And then there's a third option, that as an artist, you drop your work, you're really excited, nothing happens. 20 years later, still nobody gives a fuck. And that's also okay, because sometimes as an artist, you create something which maybe, yes, is not that good, but you need it for your personal growth, for your development as an artist to reach another stage. But now in NFT space, where if we look on Twitter, it seems to be so much about money and instant sales, I sometimes feel that artists, instead of focusing on their work, honing their craft, their skills, developing their language of their soul, they spend most of their time on Twitter. And yes, Twitter is important, money is important, but for art, that's not the core for what it's all about. And in the long term, as an artist, it will not be about the quality of your tweets, but about the quality of your art. And also, I believe, also with crypto markets or any market crashing, good art will always have value. There's a Belgian artist, Wim Delvoye, and he has a quote, and I really like that, talking about art and fame for, or money and fame for artists. He compared money and fame to art what shit is to food. When you eat, yes, you'll shit, and sometimes shitting can be very pleasurable, sometimes it hurts, but it's never the reason for eating. So fame and money are definitely a byproduct. Remember that. So going back to the bank project, in the 19th century, Oscar Wilde already said, when bankers get together for dinner, they discuss art. When bankers get together for dinner, they discuss money. The Exchanghibition Bank was a traveling bank booth. We went to different places. In the beginning of my talk, I showed you a photo that was in the Boijmans Museum. So we went to different museums, Rijksmuseum, Stedelijk Museum. Here we are in the Nevada desert at Burning Man. But we also went to public places like the main hall of Central Station. And what could people do at the Exchanghibition Bank? They could exchange their so-called real money, euros, dollars, for our banknotes. And we had different banknotes. We had, for instance, an infinite banknote, because the idea was if you have an infinite amount of money and money is no objective, then what would be your real reason for doing things? There was a banknote of 1 million, because being a millionaire has this magic ring. And remember, this banknote was like 10 years ago, so I think now it should be probably billionaire. But we would give people a banknote of 1 million and then ask them to drop it and go like, look, that's how it feels to lose 1 million. All these banknotes were printed really beautifully, holographic foil, numbered, and yeah, so they had real value. And what was cool was to see that people would actually start using them and do transactions with that money. Another very important banknote for me was the love banknote. And why? Because I believe that we too often in our society see money as just getting things, as hoarding money, and also when we buy something, it's only about what we get. But I think it's very important to realize when we buy something, we don't only get something, we give something back, money. It's an exchange. It's also like almost energy we're exchanging. Simple example, if I go somewhere to drink coffee, I will never go to Starbucks, but I always go to a local place, because that way I know if I buy coffee, I give something back, and these people can keep adding love to their neighborhood. And especially with buying art, be it physical, be it digital, I think it's very important for people who buy art to realize that not only, yes, you get a really cool piece of art and you might enjoy it, but buying the art also enables the artist to keep creating. So the love banknote was specifically so you could add love to your payments. And then there's the zero banknote. And the zero banknote was also very important for the bank because the denomination is zero. So it might have officially financially no value, but there's so many other values. And what was for me very interesting, that in the time when the bank was really popular and I traveled to a lot of places, I tried everywhere to buy stuff with my money. And it was so funny because I would go to a restaurant and go like, do you accept this? They would look at it and go like, no, no, we definitely don't accept infinite, but if you pay 3 zeros, yes, you get your meal for free. And that meant the money also, you know, it caused a bond. It was really an exchange. Another project from the bank was the transfer money tree. We went again to the Burning Man festival in the Nevada desert. I don't have a lot of time here, and I could talk probably for an hour about Burning Man. It's very interesting when we look at money because it's based on a gift economy. There's a book, The Gift by Lewis Hyde, definitely worth reading. And what did we do with the transfer money tree? So the banknotes from the bank were hanging from its branches, and people could glue real money onto the tree. We had a slogan, the art of turning art into money and back into art again, which I think is very much also what NFTs for a big part are about. But when I started with this project, it was the transfer money tree. So it was very much dealing with that there are different values. Because yes, we destroyed the financial value of the banknotes, but obviously the tree became very powerful. There were like banknotes of €100, $50. It was covered with money, but everything was just about art. And I thought, this would just be cool, you know, it's a cool vibe, everybody together is painting on money. But I never realized how emotional this would be for people. People at the project would literally break down, they would start crying, and they told me that all their life, they had the feeling that money had power over them, and by painting on the money and gluing it on a tree, they could get back some of the power. And art can do several things for me. One is that it can make us transcend everyday reality, but it can also mirror our everyday reality and make us see things which we maybe don't see yet. And I think one of that, what it can show us is that reality as we know it is a consensual reality. It's an agreement. Also like money, money is not a given fact, it's not the truth, it's not magic, it's just an agreement, it's a construct, it's a concept that people came up with, and if we know that it's a concept, yes, it can work really well. What's interesting is that in 2010, when we started with the bank, I mean, only a year before was the first time the world ever heard about Bitcoin. And now I think it's already way more easier for people with crypto to understand that, yes, also something like money is not a given fact, it can take on different forms. At the same time, also in 2011, 2012, I wrote about Bitcoin for the blog of the bank, never bought a Bitcoin, so I'm the worst banker if you ask me any financial advice. Keep that in mind. Also, I think it's important to keep in mind that, as I said, for me, art is the language of the soul, and as such, hugely important in this age, and that's why I also think that NFTs are important, because they can empower artists. But at the same time, art for me is also about freedom, has always been. There are no rules. You can make as an artist very conceptual, very strong work, which can be really ugly. You can make beautiful paintings. You can all your life keep repeating yourself and refining it, or constantly push boundaries and change. There are no rules, so this is all my opinion, or to stay in money terms, my 2 cents. Another project that dealt with money went back actually to the 90s, when I had a figure, the gray man. The gray man obviously is more into money than art. I made different gray men with different characteristics, like a punk gray man, a smiley gray man, a gray angel. And when I started in the NFT space, a lot of people were going to me, oh, are you going to mint a gray man? Because all the collectibles, different characteristic traits. But I didn't want to do it because it felt like a money grab. I also want to show you this actually. I also erected a statue back then for the gray man statue of no liberty. But then, after that, I didn't do anything with it anymore for 20 years, until suddenly I had this moment, and I thought like, what if I'll actually translate the gray man to the now, and I make a pixel, a crypto gray man, a pixelated version. But what did I do? I didn't make that one on a computer, I painted a pixelated gray man. And then I took a scan of the painting, and again, as I said, I believe that art is magic, but I know in society people view indeed money as magic. And as I said, I started a bank because I was kind of frustrated that you only hear about art in the news when it's about money. So I thought like, I'll do a kind of horse race. I do 2 auctions, one about the painting and one with the NFT, start them the exact same time, end them the exact same time. And what happened? Yes, eventually the NFT won. And what was also cool, yes, I got on the 8 o'clock news with this project because everybody goes, it's about money, who is winning? But obviously it doesn't mean that NFTs are worth more than paintings or the other way around. What I also feel is very important with art is that it's about raising questions. And what's also really cool to see that this was half a year ago, the NFTs sold for 2.4 ETH and the painting for 3,500 euros, so the NFT won because it was more than 9,000 euros. I checked my phone this morning, 2.4 ETH is definitely not winning anymore. And another experiment I did, actually this is not the painted cryptogram, but this is again a digital version we made from the painting. And instead of making, because this I also feel is important looking at money and the NFT space, in the physical world when you make a painting, yeah, it's clear there's one painting. That's why it can also become valuable. But in the digital space, we can create an overabundance. But people make projects, there's 1111, 8888, rarity rules. So I thought, you know what? I do a PFP, a collectible project, not 1111, not 8888, no, 7.9 billion Greyman. So if you still want one, I think they might still be available. It costs 1 Matic. I didn't look on my phone, but I guess it's maybe 30 cents to get one. The last project I want to talk to you about money today is another NFT I made. It was the not for sale NFT. I wrote not for sale on a post-it note, did that on 16 post-it notes, scanned them in, made an animated GIF, and put it on Rarible. And I just added, this is not for sale, because it's a not for sale NFT. And then the bids started coming in, one bid after another, then it was 2.8 ETH, then I see the guy in front who actually bid 3 ETH, which back then was again, I think like 9,000 euros, but it was not for sale. So obviously I didn't sell it, and it's interesting because with one click of a button, it would be mine. But I think it's very important to realize that even though it seems in NFT space, when we look on Twitter, that it's so much about money, art is not always about money, and its biggest value can often be something else. Also at Burning Man, but in different places, for like 10 years, I destroyed all my art. I burned it, I blew it up with explosives, I smashed it to pieces. That had value for me. And at the same time, I think this not for sale NFT also deals with the fact that this space is still very much about human trust, because the people bidding somehow had to trust me that I would not accept a bid. And knowing my history, knowing how I deal as an artist with money, that I destroyed a lot of my work, I think that's what really makes the trust. And they often say the blockchain, years ago, people always said, this is going to be the trustless society. I guess you all know how many scams we have in the space. It's still, and that's luckily, it's still very much about humans. It'll, for me, always be about humans. Until in 2060, an AI will give a speech on stage, but then I'm not around anymore. There would be a clock here that would be ticking, so I would know how much time I still have left, because as we all know, time is money, but I don't see the time. But I know I have to, I think, approximately wrap it up. If you want to follow what I'm doing, and actually, as I said, for me, art is here to raise questions, so I hope you didn't view me as someone giving answers. Politicians do that enough. This is where you can follow me. Also, right after this talk, if you really have any questions, there is no room for a Q&A on stage, but I'm going to the MET AMS booth for the next half hour, so you can ask me anything. Also, I don't have any airdrop for you today, but I do have the 0 banknote from the bank. Everybody coming with me there, you're going to get free money. Yeah, you need to applaud for free money. People never applaud for art, but when it's free money, yeah, bow. And then, last but not least, I am an artist. I really like to also talk about my ideas I have behind art. I also really believe that art is not only about a pretty picture. As an artist, you create your own universe, and NFTs, paintings, drawings, everything can show you a glimpse into that world. So I talked a little bit about my world, but also today we actually created a piece of art together with Zero Oh Null. He's somewhere here in the audience. We animated my Zero banknote. It's based on the Zero banknote. And this morning I minted it as an NFT on Foundation. After this talk, I hope you understand, it does have value even though it says zero. Does it also have financial value? I don't know. It's on Foundation. That's up to you. And yeah, that was it. I hope my talk had value for you. Yeah, and if you want free money, you'll need to come with me.
Thank you, Dadara. You can take it with you. You can leave it. It's your choice. I'll take it. Love this guy. And I told you already, I think a couple of times, that I really love virtual reality. And the main reason for that is that just of the simple immersion you get, right? You put the headset on and suddenly you're completely immersed in these other worlds. And I have to say that Dadara's paintings, when you see them in real life in front of you, are just as immersive. They draw you in, there's so much detail, and at some point you almost have you're almost like, is this moving or no? It's a very specific technique. And so if you ever get the chance to check out Dadara's paintings in real life, I can highly recommend that. It's a truly immersive experience. Next up, we are taking a deep dive into the music industry and how Web3 will democratize this behemoth of an industry, right? The music industry is a huge industry. And the possibilities that Web3 offers for democratizing that behemoth is incredible. And I'm very happy to welcome you back here in the audience. This time we have a little bit of a longer break. So we're going to take an 8-minute break. So maybe it's time for you to get a coffee or grab something, grab a drink, use the bathroom. Now everyone's leaving. I got to get you back in after the break. See ya.